So, I just got done playing the Street Fighter V beta, the second one, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed myself actually. I think that game looks pretty damn good right now. There are obviously quite a few things that have changed coming from Street Fighter 4, but all in all, I still think that the changes were made for the better, and that is obviously coming from me, who is not a detractor of Street Fighter 4. I play that game a lot. If you look at my Steam or my YouTube channel, you will probably get that. But still, I had so much fun in the beta that I just don't even want to get back into Street Fighter 4 right now, even though 5 is still like half a year away from release. So that is probably saying quite a bit. There are a few things that I want to criticize too. There are a few things also that I would like people to just shut up about, honestly, and wait for the final release and then see how it plays out. But I will get into that right now, so let's go. So my favorite change, I would say, about Street Fighter V is that there are no more hard knockdowns. So I try to make this video a bit more beginners friendly, so let me quickly explain what a hard knockdown is. A knockdown obviously is when your character is sent to the ground, and the lying down part is what's called the knockdown, and then when your character stands up again into neutral stance, that's what's called a wake up. There are different kinds of wake-ups. For example, the normal wake-up where a character will just lie down for a specific amount of frames before he gets up. And then there's something, for example, called the quick rise, where your character will, after hitting the ground, immediately get up. And the quick rise has the advantage that the opponent has less time to set up his next attack, while you are still waiting for your character to get up. Now, a hard knockdown is any knockdown that you can't quick rise, and Street Fighter 4 is a game with a lot of hard knockdowns, and thus it is a game with a lot of setups where you basically have to take the next mix-up on your wake-up. And unfortunately in Street Fighter 4 there are also a lot of characters that are just all about these situations where they will hard knock down you once, and then they will force you into a mix-up that, if you guess wrong, will not only eat like a fifth of your health bar, but it will also force you into another hard knockdown, and then it just goes on and on until you guess right. And that shit is basically gone from Street Fighter V, and I think it's really better off for it. The implication for gameplay is that Street Fighter V just resets to neutral game more often, because when you land a combo into a knockdown, then your opponent can almost always quick rise or roll back, and that means he is out of your reach or gets up too quickly for you to continue your pressure. And that is good, because that forces you into neutral game again, and thus you have to start out playing your opponent in neutral game again. But obviously that's not unfair, because when you get in, when you land a combo, you still do damage and you still push to the corner. And in the corner is where you want to have basically everyone. So you push someone to the corner, you land some damage, and then you start out playing your opponent again. Do it once, do it twice, and then you have them in the corner. So taking every bit of damage you get from neutral game and your positioning that you do not lose ground is what's really important in this game. And that is basically a great focus on neutral game itself, so I really like that. The second topic we should talk about is the execution. So obviously the plan in Street Fighter V from a design standpoint has been to lower the execution barrier and thus make the game more accessible to newer players so that they can pick it up and do the important combos relatively quickly. And I guess that was a success, because the combos are certainly easy to do this time around. The important question, of course, is if it's a good idea to lower the execution barrier, and that I have to answer with yes, but. Street Fighter 4 has a lot of one-frame links, and I know from first-hand experience that that is very daunting to new players. Like when I wanted to show the game to friends, they said, hey, this is pretty cool, and the moment they had to link medium punch into medium kick, then they were like, nope, thank you, I'm never playing this again, get away from me. So what they did in Street Fighter V is add a 3-frame input buffer, which basically means you can be 3 frames too early with your second button and the combo will still happen, and that definitely makes things a lot easier. And I think that's a good idea because in my opinion basic bread and butter combos just shouldn't rely on strict timings, because otherwise you have to grind them out in the single player mode, in practice mode of a multiplayer game. And if you don't do it, you start the multiplayer game without any damaging combos and without any hit confirms. And everyone who knows fighting games knows it's just not how that works. So making the whole process easier and more accessible is probably a good idea. But, and this is a big smelly but actually, I still think execution is a fundamental skill of fighting games, and it shouldn't be completely removed from the equation. You see, having hand-to-eye coordination is a skill. Having the dexterity and the precision to do strict button inputs is also a skill. And being able to do these under tournament pressure is also a skill. And it's part of fighting games because combo drops are pretty important. And, will completely turn around a match. So what I hope will happen is that basic combos are still easy to do, but over time people will find more advanced combos that are harder to do. For example, I have seen a Rio combo on, I believe it was Elioun's Street Fighter or YouTube channel, where he found a true one-frame link, and so far that he did I think it was a medium punch, and then he walked forward for a specific amount of frames and then did another medium punch. And from the walk forward to the medium punch to the second one, that was a one-frame link that, isn't affected by the input buffer. And it's important insofar that this is something that pro gamers, that competitive players will do, because being a competitive player is about optimizing your damage. It's about basically optimizing everything. So the ideal case here, in my opinion, would be that, the basic combos can still compete with the damage. They still have decent damage and are easy to do. And then when a, normal player wants to upgrade himself to become a competitive player, then he will start looking into optimized damage. And then he can start grinding out these one-frame combos and all these harder combos that people hopefully will find later on. So, of course, it remains to be seen if these combos will be found, but if that is actually the case, then I think Street Fighter V will be pretty good in that regard. The next thing I want to talk about is that Street Fighter V actually promotes blocking. Blocking on Wake Up. That is also a pretty important skill that's somehow, for some people, and I include myself in that very much, has been somewhat lost in Street Fighter IV, because Street Fighter IV has a lot of other wake-up options that you can use that are all counterable in some way, obviously, but they are still good if the opponent doesn't expect it or guesses wrong. So, for example, you can in Street Fighter IV you can DP, you can DP F80C, you can backdash, you can focus backdash. If you're very desperate, you can use an ultra and hope it will catch the opponent pressing something. You can use an invincible roll, and so on and so forth. And of course, also in Street Fighter IV, you can use a crouch tech, meaning you don't have to decide if you want to, throw out a jab or just block, or if you actually want to, throw because you expect to throw and you want to tech. The game with a crouch tech decides for you, and that shit, all of that shit is gone in Street Fighter V, because DPs now, when they get baited and punished, eat a so-called crush counter, which is a specific counter hit state that will lead to even more damage than a normal counter hit, so it's just a bigger risk to DP on Wake Up. Backdashes are no more invincible. There are no rolls, I think, invincible rolls, backwards or anything that I have seen that are special actually. And F80Cs are gone, ultras are gone. So yeah, they're often the best course of action when you actually get knocked down or someone gets in on you is to block. Just block. And where the game actually gets wonderfully tense is that it promotes blocking, but it also doesn't promote blocking for a long time. And you sooner or later have to get out of the opponent's pressure, or else you will eat a lot of so-called grey damage. And grey damage is when you block a medium or heavy attack, then grey damage will appear in your health bar. It will regenerate once you don't get attacked for a while, but if you have grey damage in your health bar and you eat an attack, for example an overhead, then you eat all the grey damage as well as the damage from that overhead. So it creates that very tense but very simple offense that, you know, everybody understands. Everyone understands how he has to block, what counters what, and the defender has to look for the gaps in the opponent's or in the attacker's pressure, which is of course a very basic fighting game concept. But what I like is that it doesn't rely on, you know, ambiguous cross-ups or setups that can go in 5 different directions and so on and so forth. And that's what I really like about Street Fighter V. Of course, that's only what I experienced so far. It would be pretty naive to think that people won't find dirty mix-ups later on. Right, now let's get into some of the criticisms I have. My negatives about the game are relatively short, but still. First of all, anti-airs need to do more damage and they need to be 100% reliable. Period. I don't understand why Capcom is afraid of punishing people for jumping in, but I mean it's a fucking game about space control and a ground-based footsies battle, and I don't understand why, and this is the same in Street Fighter 4 too, jump-ins carry so little risk compared to the reward of hitting just one. I just don't understand it. Second of all, the hitboxes need some adjusting, especially some of the kick attacks clearly do not reach the entire length of the leg that the model shows. You know, there are a lot of attacks that clearly, when they, you know, clip the toes with the opponent, still don't hit because the hitbox doesn't include the toes for some reason. And that makes, you know, playing footsies, making pokes and spacing your attacks properly just that much less intuitive, and it's pretty annoying, honestly. And my third criticism would be that I think the game could just be a little bit faster, and that might be fixable by just increasing walk speeds across the board. Now, I understand that walk speeds are part of the balance, and I wouldn't want to screw with that, but walk speeds also are just a number, and you can adjust numbers by increasing them all and keeping the relations, you know, the differences between walk speeds between characters the same. So that wouldn't really affect the balance, it would just affect how fast the slowest and the fastest walk speeds would be. Finally, what I want to talk about is that honestly people on the internet need to calm down, okay? I have seen so many who are already convinced they have found the definitive opinion on how this game will play out for all the years to come. And coincidentally, all those people who are convinced of that also think that this game will be shit. And maybe we could think about this for a moment, because I'm not saying you shouldn't be critical of a game, but all we did was play a 3 to 5 days beta event with an incomplete build. So just maybe this might turn out differently at release, and just maybe it's a fighting game, and fighting games also evolve over time and evolve with players getting better at them, and currently no one is good at this game. And this is exactly why I call this a beta impressions video and not Street Fighter V, the review. I've had people come up to me and say to me with a straight fucking face that they think Street Fighter V is too easy. Too easy. A game that is at like day minus 150 and that they have played in no competitive setting or any kind of tournament is too easy. Okay, because you can, beat up a bunch of scrubs in an online beta that have no experience with Street Fighter at all? I mean, especially in a game like this that is so neutral heavy, the main difficulty obviously comes from outplaying your opponent rather than the game. So obviously this will become more difficult the better your opponent gets, and your opponents in general will only get better over time. This is like the definition of what neutral game is about, and this is pretty much a fucking fact. So maybe it should remain to be seen how this game will turn out eventually. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe in like half a year everyone will have figured out what buttons are good, and then every character is reduced to 2 buttons, and that's the neutral game that stagnates from there on. But this also becomes less possible in a game that is confirmed to have, you know, constant new character updates and constant balance updates over time. So yeah, those are basically my final words on the beta. If you disagree with anything, if you think I'm wrong, then please let me know. I'm up to discuss anything I just said, and I'm not a fanboy, so I can actually be convinced of being wrong. However, I have discussed this game a lot over the past few days, and I gotta say, I've met just too many people who were utterly convinced they have figured everything out, and 5 sentences into the discussion it became clear that they don't have an idea of basic move, counter move concepts in fighting games, like what is a frame trap and how do you use it. And when these people tell me that this game will be shit, then I'm inclined to cast a little bit of doubt on that. Coincidentally, these were also the people that, resorted to name calling and insults the fastest, and I'm honestly tired of that at this point. So if you disagree, let me know. If you agree, let me also know. But what I want is that you be civil about it. Okay? BoukenJima signing out.